All right, everybody. It, oh, sorry. Kind of jumped the gun there. All right, good morning, everybody. So this morning was supposed to be a really happy and fun stream. And then things kind of went to crap. So, we are going to talk about that at this point. And I am going to just, let's see. No, I guess that's fine there. I was going to adjust my volume down a little bit, but it looks like I probably are right there. Although I still don't have music on because, as we're about to get to, things were a bit hectic this morning. And I just spilled my water. Good. All right. So, I was getting ready to print the last few pieces I needed for a project that I'll talk about in just a minute. And my printer died last night. It had been printing just fine up until that point. But all of a sudden, it decided that it was not going to do the printing thing anymore. It kept on giving me Z calibration issues. And I was kind of actually not too surprised about that once I started thinking about it, because I've had the printer off for about a week because I've been rearranging my room and downsizing stuff. So it was unplugged and off on the side, and I feel like the last time that happened, I had the same issue where I tried to turn the Prusa back on and it started giving me Z calibration issues, and I couldn't remember what I did to fix it, but I started troubleshooting. And I figured, eventually we'll get there. Well, that problem started at like 9 p.m. last night. I was trying to get to bed early, and I didn't get to bed till like 12, and it still wasn't fixed. It still wasn't fixed. So, waking up a bit late this morning because I went to bed so late. Waking up late being that I woke up around 8 this morning instead of my targeted 7. I went ahead and swapped out the nozzle because that's the next thing on my list to troubleshoot, would be to swap out the nozzle and see if that fixes anything. I know it sounds maybe a little bit silly, but I feel like that's fixed problems I've had in the past before, so I went ahead and did that. Last night, actually, I should add in that I did update the firmware for the first time in forever. I can't remember the last time I updated firmware on my Prusa. And the funny thing is that now that when I swap out the nozzle, because I'm using a wrench and a driver, right, to get the nozzle on and off, it actually senses that heatsink into the driver and the wrench and starts beeping at me. And at one point it even killed the heat. It actually shut the heat off because it saw that something weird was happening. So one of these interesting things, I'll have to see whether or not the instructions on Prusa have been updated for that, because if the instructions are still the same, I just do it the same exact way that Prusa tells you, which is set to ASA. I think it's ASA. Set to ASA, let it heat up, take the nozzle out using a wrench and driver, put a new nozzle in, wait 5 minutes, tighten the new nozzle the rest of the way down, and then you're good to go, basically. Shortened version. But if that's still the way it's written on the website, well, then I got a little bit of a problem, because the new firmware actually catches you using the wrench and the driver because it's sinking heat out of the hot end, and it shuts the heat off on you, which is not useful. So, because you want the heat on for the new nozzle to get acclimated so you can finish tightening it the rest of the way down after it's fully heated. Point being. Anyway, I got through all that, and I started doing the full XYZ calibration. I skipped so last night I had tried to do many times, and it kept on failing until it finally actually succeeded. Just the Z calibration on its own. Again, just constantly failing for some reason, I couldn't tell. Whoops, forgot to mute the phone. The Z, I actually, last night, sorry, again, heck morning. Last night, one other thing I had noticed was that my Pinda, the proximity sensor on it, that thing was acting up. I went into the electronics case and gave the plug a little push, and it stopped acting up. It was working perfectly fine last night afterwards, although I was still getting some calibration issues where it wasn't sensing But whatever. And furthermore, I was doing the first layer. I did the first layer wizard a couple times, you know, checking the layer height. And it was way off from normal. It was off. Normally I'm around about like 0.7, I believe it is. Well, I don't say I believe it is. I know it's about 0.7, give or take like a 1/16 of a millimeter. But regardless, point being is that I was all the way up to 1.1, minus 1.1 millimeters, which is ridiculous. And even then, it was not giving me a consistent layer, which I'm assuming has to do with the mesh bed leveling not being accurate. So that brings us back to the current. Again, apologize for the slight ramble there and the lack of chronological order, but I was doing the full XYZ calibration, and it got through the first point just fine. It does 4 different points on the bed for the calibration test, the Z calibration test when you're doing the full XYZ calibration. The second point, it got halfway through, and I heard it start doing something weird. So I look over, and it is circling upwards, which I recognized as it has no idea where the bed is. And I look, and sure enough, the Pinda is off. It's no longer sensing. I give it a quick, you know, check with the spatula that I got sitting over there for the printer. And yeah, it's definitely not sensing anything. So reset the computer, not the computer, the printer, open up the box, unplug, replug the Pinda, reset it again because the Pinda is still not turning on. And it looks like my Pinda is just dead, which one of those things would explain the, you know, all the abnormalities in the Z calibration. It's super obnoxious though. I mean, the Pinda routing anything through the stupid, you know, wire meshes, the wire carriers is always annoying. But yeah, I mean, I get it is what it is. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure the Pinda is like pretty expensive. I can go ahead and pull it up, but annoyingly, Pinda Prusa. Where's the store at? Let's see. Prusa Super Pinda. We'll check the Super Pinda. Oh, okay. So the Super Pinda, and it's one of those things. I mean, I use my Prusa so much that it's funny because it's listed underneath. I'm looking at the tree, right? Oh no, I wonder if those are just tags. So normally at the top of the screen, here, we'll go ahead and hop you over here so you can see what I'm looking at. Let me just make sure we're pointing at the correct browser window so that you don't end up over on my stream. And you would have ended up over on my stream because you always do, it looks like. So swapping this over to, where is Pinda? Pinda, there it is. All right, and push live. So yeah, one of those things. I use my Prusa enough that honestly spending some extra money on the more expensive one I'm fine with. Actually the funny thing is that I wonder, 1 2 3, the weird thing is that 1 2 3 4, why does that only have 3 wires? So my Pinda has 4 wires. Let's see if we can't find the other one. Actually, I want this one. I want the MK3S Plus Pinda V2. I'm assuming the Pinda V2 is the one that came with mine. And it looks like they may not have it unless it's on the next page. Nope, alright. They just plain do not have the Pinda V2. They only have the Super Pinda. So, as you can see here in the picture, there's 3 wires, but there's 4 slots, which makes sense because my Pinda is 4. Now, it's kind of hilarious that this one is supposed to have thermal sensing on it, based on right here, which you would expect to take up at least 1 extra wire. So if mine had 2 data wires, a ground and a power, I guess, then it's kind of weird that this one doesn't have 2 data wires, a ground and a power, because in theory you could just use the same 2 data wires, assuming you're using I2C or something like that. So yeah, I'm confused as to why that only has 3, despite being the, in theory, one with the extra sensor on it. But anyway, not as expensive as I was thinking. I was thinking more like 40 it would probably end up being, but still obnoxious, especially because if I get this from Prusa, which I try to do. So let's hop back over here. Super. Is there an Amazon link? Yeah, there we go. Version 2. So version 2 Pindo. And actually that one looks like it only has, oh no, there you go. So there's 4 wires just like mine. So that's $18. So honestly not that much cheaper, but one of those things. March 3rd, today's the 25th. So actually that's 5 days. Oh, that's right. I'm not signed in over on this user. So chances are that would just be Tuesday that it would get here. I'm not signed into Amazon on this user. So one of those things. I'd have to wait only until Tuesday for that one, as opposed to this one is preparation time 1 to 3 business days and then ship from Europe. So, you know, forever after that. So my printer would be done a lot longer. I'd prefer, it's one of those things, I'd prefer to buy from Prusa directly, but unfortunately it's one of these deals. I need this stupid thing, so where are we at? There we are. I don't know what to say, you know? It's kind of a necessity thing, unfortunately. It's either I don't print for the next 2 weeks, or, well, it comes from, what you call it? Well, it comes from Europe, or I get it by Tuesday, which is still a bit later, but a bit longer than I'd like to wait, but still a lot better than waiting till April, you know? So that's the thing there. Again, this was supposed to be an upbeat and look at all this crap I'm doing video, but unfortunately with my Prusa going down, that kind of causes a lot of problems. So next up, I do have a list here, at least a partial list. I really quick through the things off the top of my head. I know there's more I want to talk about, but I guess we may as well talk about the project that I needed my Prusa for, since we're on that topic. So I needed to print out, let me pull them up in Fusion and then we can go over there. Prusa. Boo, 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 boo. Where are they at? I should just go to one of those things, being a little bit of derp, I should have just gone to, there they are, edited documents. Alright, and over to Fusion. And since this is a talking stream, let's go ahead and toss my face up on here. Let's see, add image. Let's see, me white border. Oh goodness, that opened that instead of loading it into, that's black border. White border, there we go. All right, there we go, there I am. So, I was printing this thing out. Basically, as I've said before, I have a bit of space at work that and I'm gonna go ahead and open these guys up right now so I can close the tab, because we'll be talking about these guys in just a minute. And actually, let's open up the enclosure too while we're here. Oh, actually, I do have this sorted today by, there we go. I have it sorted by edited time, it looks like, as opposed to sorted by name, which is why I had a little bit of difficulty finding the half-inch connector. And this is funny, Fusion seems to be extra slow this morning, which would just be the story of my life at this point. There we go. All right, so back to the topic at hand. little area at work that I've managed to carve out for myself where I plan on doing stuff and things, working on stuff and things, recording stuff and things, etc., etc., etc. I did bring stuff home. I tried recording at work at first in the break room. That was originally how I was recording my first couple of videos. So for example, if you looked at the let's see, so it's a question of which ones actually got posted, because I know the chess one did not actually get posted. Actually, it's just one I was going to return at home, record at home. So it would have been, at the very least, my Bitbox video, and I can't remember what else it was because this was way back, right? So those were done in the break room at work, and then I decided, you know what? It's way too much. There we go. Close that. It's way too much, I guess, effort to go into work, because work is a half an hour away, and I'm often busy in the evening. I want to get stuff done at home because obviously I can't get stuff done at home while I'm at work. So I decided to bring the stuff home, the recording stuff home, my setup, for example, that black tablecloth that you see, and then turntable, etc., 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 for, you know, setting up the shots, the B-reel shots and whatnot. Brought that home, and it ended up being that I just plain do not have the room at home to get this stuff done. So it's gonna happen at work again. Problem is that my little area at work did not have electricity. I was running a extension cord, a 50-foot extension cord to it, and it was just barely reaching. Like, it was a 50-foot extension cord and then a long-tailed, what do you call them? Power strip, a long-tailed power strip, and just barely getting close enough for stuff to plug in and then stretch the rest of the way. So I ran electricity to my area, got that set up, and I got lighting set up. Well, I've got the lighting prepped. The lighting is actually what I'm doing the video for. The problem is that I'm using whips, and the connectors that I have on hand are too big for the whips that I'm using to connect to the lights from the junction box. So I was printing this to take up that slack. I had a version 1 of this that did not quite work, unfortunately, and one of those things, just a very stupid idea on my part. I just made a very stupid design decision, and I was like, all right, whatever, screw it. We'll make these things up, print them out really quick. They take 20 minutes a piece. It was going to get done in an hour and a half last night, and then we'd be good to go. We'd be able to take these into work and then finish actually hooking the lights up, because the lights are in place. They just, again, need the wiring, the whip, to go from the junction box to each light. So that brings you up to speed on that one. That obviously will not be happening this morning, which is obnoxious. I'm trying to figure out, I might be able to modify what I have at work to make it work for the time being. It might be a little bit janky, but one of those things. Otherwise, we're waiting till Tuesday for my printer to hopefully be fixed. Hopefully, the only problem is that the Pinda is dead, and that's the only problem. And once I swap out the Pinda, then we're back in business. But if something else goes wrong after that, then I'm really crying. So that being the case, again, maybe better to just hack together whatever I can at work and get that up just so that we can get it finished and get rolling with that stuff. Otherwise, on to the next thing on my list. And where is this thing at? I think this is on your screen right now, so you're gonna see it. Yep, you're gonna see it. All right, well, you saw it for a half second there. It's off your screen now, so we can start talking about it. Next up is the enclosure. I got the pieces for the enclosure finally cut. I've had the plexiglass for it for 3 weeks now. I'm pretty sure it's 3 weeks now, because I had gotten the plexiglass, and then we spent all week doing the Prusa printables flash contest, right? So I didn't do anything with it there. And then after that, we had a full weekend of, or 2 full weekends in a row, I should say, of Light Lake. I spent all weekend, both weeks, working on Light Lake, and therefore did not get this done. But I finally found time to get this done. Problem is that I kind of I kind of screwed up a little bit. So I was cutting the first two pieces on the layout sheet. If we look at the layout sheet, which means we're opening this thing up again. First two pieces over here. Assuming that Fusion decides to start working. Is the sidewalls. So this is the left and right sidewall right here. And as I was doing this first one, I was looking around, just making sure everything was cool. And while I was looking around, I took my eyes, obviously, off of the router, which meant that right about here, I ended up going off the straight edge I was using as a guide and ruining this piece. Well, that's cool because this is the same exact height as these guys. So I can just use this half, you know, pretend like this is this half right here, and make the door. No big deal. You know, kind of sucks that I ruined quote unquote a piece, but at the end of the day, we have extra meat for example, this piece down here, if we can't get this piece out of this piece now. So, not actually a problem, fixable. I was then cutting this piece, and the router actually, I wasn't keeping pressure on the straight edge. The router actually slipped underneath the straight edge, which is fine because it just goes down, right? I would just be cutting down this way into this piece, and this piece I can just measure off this edge anyway, which means that these are technically more towards this edge to begin with. So that's not that big of a deal. But as I was turning it off and pulling it out, and I made sure it spun down first, but I guess as I recorrected with the straight edge, I guess I nicked this one a little bit. So that's actually not that bad. It's just got a little divot in it that I can fill in with caulk or adhesive or whatever, you know. So that's not that big of a deal. But it still sets me off a little bit. So we get to the last piece here. We get this piece actually cut all right. No big deal. Then we take this piece and we start cutting these individual panels out. And I get to the door and I measure wrong. And now the door is like 2 inches shorter on one side. So 2 inches from this side over than it was supposed to be. So at this point in this great crazy adventure of cutting this stupid enclosure, as it turns out, I'm gonna have to either redesign the door, just change the door size, which isn't too big of a deal, just annoying because then it will be off center in theory. And well, it doesn't necessarily need to be off center. I could recenter it because we have enough meat on this section right here to cut all these pieces out again. But it's either do that or get a new 24 by 24 inch piece to cut this out of. One last thing I will say, because I don't know if I talked about this and therefore I'm saying router and that may be confusing for you. Sorry. Fact, I spilled water earlier and I was just checking if the water was drying up. I am using a hand router to route this stuff out because I do not have access to a good table saw, and buying the table saw blade that would not completely destroy this. Either I buy an extremely expensive one that I'm ever going to use once for this one plexiglass build that I'm doing, or I buy the cheaper one and cross my fingers because there's mixed reviews on those ones. So I figured instead I just buy a better bit, you know, a slightly more expensive better bit for my router and cut them like that. So that's the reason why I was using a hand router, trim router, and that catches us up on that one. So that's the state of the enclosure right now. I have the walls all here at home. Just I'll clean up some of the burrs on the edges. I'm honestly not even sure if they're actually burrs on the plexiglass. The plexiglass may be clean. It's got the, what do you call it? The cling wrap on both sides. Whatever that's called. Let's see. Masking. They're calling it masking on the plexiglass. So they got the masking on both sides, and the burrs that I'm seeing may actually be that masking as opposed to the plexiglass. So I've just got to investigate that, and then I can start tacking that together. And again, I was thinking how I wanted to do this, and because it was still up in the air. And I still think probably my best shot is to tack it together with super glue first, and then come back and hit it with, caulk it basically with adhesive. I think one of those things, I'm trying to get this thing relatively airtight, so that may be where we're going with this. That still has to happen though, as I said. And that is the full story on the enclosure, so we can go on to our next topic, which is the bench. So this was version 1 of the bench, and this is how I wanted to do it. I am getting this bench, or building this bench rather. I'm building this bench because I am now going to have 3 machines I want to have set up. The fact of the matter is that the Ender 3 did not actually have a place to be set up in my room, which is part of the reason why I never used it. I probably could have found somewhere to stick it, but since we are getting the Carvera, I need more space for that as well. Looking at the footprints, 2 foot across all 3 of them should be enough. So that's why I made this 6 foot bench. So figured those 3 up here, and then replacing the bookshelves that I have my hardware on right now with this bench puts those 3 up here, and then I can put all my hardware from the 2 bookcases I have. They're small bookcases. But I should be able to fit all the hardware that I have down here on this shelf. And then I have more stuff that have kind of been jammed in the corners in my room. So I figured I could get that all lined up and neat underneath here on the ground. And that would have been cool and would have been awesome. But I measured and I do not have 6 foot. I do not have the 6 foot this requires. This is technically a little bit more than 6 foot with these. But not gonna happen. So that brings up this one here. So this one, I started out at 4 foot. I looked at my measurements in my room and I said, all right, you know what? I technically can get away with about 5 foot, a little bit more than 5 foot if I need it, just not the full 6 foot. So this is now nominally at the 5 foot right there, 60 inches. Actually, you can't see that because my face is in the way. My bad. But trust me when I say that. Actually, if I pull the inspection tab up, you'll be able to see it. Let's see. I'm just waiting for, because I only have the stream preview up right now. Alright, there you go. Yes, you can see it there. So 60 inches. So, we got it at a 5 foot plus these guys on the end. These tusked tenons, as they're called. Now, you'll see on this one, I was like, I don't know if this really is thick enough right here, if there's enough meat here, etc, etc, etc. And then I looked at actual hook tusk tenons, rather. I keep on trying to call it hook tusk tenons, but tusk tenons, and it actually looks like they can be pretty thin. So even though I have them like this chunky right here, I could probably even thin this up a bit. And this is the way they're supposed to go because this gives you more surface area against the leg to suck it all in at. So that is where we're at now. And then as you can see, I took out the center bench because in theory, the Ender 3 has to sit right here. So the Ender 3 will just sit not necessarily on the ground, but on something right here. And we'll sit down here, and I will have the Prusa and the Carvera up here with plenty of space because it's 5 foot instead of 4 foot for them to wiggle around and have extra breathing room. So that's the plan right now. I am designing, I don't know, I just kind of threw this together to see what it looked like. I'm not sure how exactly I feel about it, but this would be a cart, and I'd probably have a second one right here that would wheel out. So I do have that somewhere here. Is that this one? So this would wheel out. I have extra casters, extra computer chair casters sitting around, not doing anything. And they should be enough, if I put 4 of them in there, to hold the weight of whatever I put on here. The reason I am doing it in this direction is that this right here is 2 foot. I need the bench 2 foot deep for all this stuff. And 2 foot kind of sets everything back. Like everything should be double stacked at that point. But if I change the orientation on the shelves, and one of those things, there'd be another shelf down here. But if I change the orientation this way, now instead of being 2 foot long ways, now in theory this is 12 inches. So we take our 12 inches this way, right? Line things up against these verticals right here so they don't fall out. And that works a lot better. And then again, I can slide this out and pull whatever I need and then slide it back in underneath and put a fascia on there for good looks. I got a fascia on the back just to stop things from falling through the hole in there. But that is the plan. So this is the new version of the bench. I did it this way with these tusk tenons, and that's tenons down there going all the way through. In theory, this bench top, I'm planning on just putting dowels, kind of like how I'm talking about with my desk, the desk lits I was talking about, you know, just using positioning dowels to keep it from spinning, you know, to keep it square. Because fact of the matter is that it's going to have heavy stuff on top of it, keeping it down. You know, I'm not expecting it to really move much. Just stop it from sliding a little bit is the only thing we really need. So dowels going into this MDF board right here. That's the plan, having MDF board on top. And we'll be good to go. And the point is, actually, I got into that ramble and did not get to the point. The point would be is that this is easy to knock down and move out of where I'm staying right now. That's the idea. So one of those things, take the top off, take each of these squaring, whatever you call them, torsion box deal thingies out, knock the pegs out, everything comes apart, easy peasy, collapses. These what do you call them, carts, do not come apart. That's not the plan. The plan is to glue them permanently together. So that will be something that will take a little bit more effort to move, but the bench itself, which is the largest thing, the most awkward thing, can be broken down into individual pieces to make it super easy to move. Point being. So that is, like I said, the bench. That is the bench I will be building for my room. And I wanted to have B-reel footage of me building it for the video that inevitably comes out. And again, I can't do that without lighting. It again is quite dark up where I am set up at work. And yeah, that lighting needs to happen in order for me to get B-reel. And yeah, that is a bit of an issue. Oh, the other thing is, looking at this, I'm going to attempt, I know people say don't do it. But I have skids at work, large skids, with full-sized 2x4s, alright? So I'm going to attempt to do it out of 2x4s. Again, I know I'm not supposed to, but I've got the material. I would like to try. So this all is 2x4 construction right here. With obviously the exception of the MDF shelvings and whatever I decide to use for fascia here. And we can close this, and actually we are down. Got that. So I mean, the last thing really that I have on my list here, and I know there's other things I want to talk about again that I did not remember to put on the list, so I'll try to remember those before we get done the last topic, which is that I spent last Sunday all the way through till Thursday about 2 hours a night downsizing, as I mentioned before, my room. And that was a lot of effort, especially because there were, again, as I mentioned, bookshelves that I had to pull out, get them stuffed into my car to get them out of the house completely and stowed away. I did not throw them out. I stowed them away for right now in my area at work that I told you about. That's where I'm hiding them for the moment, because one of those things, bookshelves are useful. It was super useful to have them right here next to my desk and be able to pull stuff off. Again, with the bench, that shouldn't be necessary at this point, but I'd like to hold on to them for a little while longer. See if I can't, when I inevitably move locations, can't get some more use out of them. That is the plan, which is why I'm holding on to them. So they're at work right now, collecting dust. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, I'll be able to get those out of there and move somewhere better. So again, there were multiple bookcases, and then I had to organize all the stuff that came off the bookcases so that it wasn't a complete pile of mess. And also, while I was doing that, I moved my printer. So my Prusa, again, is going to end up over on the bench. I have a side table that is a little bit shorter than the bench, but I set that up in place to simulate the bench so I can make sure that everything looks good. So my printer ended up moving over there, and the side table that I had the printer on got moved back to where it was originally. And on top of all that, I got a good opportunity to literally vacuum every single last inch of my room that I couldn't get to before, because again, a lot of it was underneath bookcases and material, and I moved all that stuff out of the way and therefore was able to actually vacuum and clean that stuff. So that was a good opportunity. One of those things, a bit exhausting, frankly, to have 2 hours straight of lifting heavy stuff and moving heavy stuff and, you know, doing that 4 days in a row. And that was after one of those things, working on other stuff, spending time, for example, Sunday I streamed. Did I stream on Sunday? I can't remember if I streamed on Sunday, but I know I at least did Light Lake as well on Sunday, and I recorded, Sunday night. So Sunday night I recorded a short saying that Light Lake's video would be out by Monday, and recording, editing, and uploading the short took me all the way up until like 10 o'clock, or no, I guess it would have been 9 o'clock, and then I spent the 2 hours till 11 downsizing again, as I said, my room. So then Monday, 2 hours, spent about 2 hours recording the video of Light Lake, and then Tuesday spent about 2 hours editing the 2 hour video of Light Lake, which actually is not that bad. Actually, no, I guess it must have been longer. It must have been longer because I normally don't get 1 for 1. I normally get like 4 for 1. It normally takes me so it would have taken me like 8 hours to edit. No, actually, I take that back. So that's how I normally count it. The end result of the video was, I think, about 40 minutes. So I guess, 40 minutes times 4 would be 3 hours and 40 minutes. So I guess it probably, maybe between Monday and Tuesday, took me about 4 hours to edit it. So I guess I might have spent 3 hours on Tuesday editing and 1 hour on Monday editing. That's probably how it ended up. Otherwise, you know for a fact, because you watch this channel, that Light Lake came out Tuesday night. And then Wednesday, can't recall what exactly I was working on Wednesday. Wednesday was actually a pretty easy night because I had most of the heavy lifting out for my room, getting stuff cleared out. So it was actually a pretty comfortable night. Just one of those things, it being the third night in a row I was doing it, was starting to get mentally tiring. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I can't remember what exactly else I did on Wednesday night. Thursday night obviously was dinner. I do dinner with the family on Thursday night, so I don't get very much done. I did do a little extra cleaning, just like minor cleaning stuff on Thursday night. Friday, yesterday, then was let's see, what the heck did I do yesterday? Oh, yesterday got a bit messy. So yesterday was when my printer broke down. That was a bit later in the night. So dinner ended up taking me longer than I expected to, like half an hour to 45 minutes longer than I expected to actually get done. So I didn't end up eating dinner till later. And then I ended up messaging a friend a lot, which I wasn't exactly expecting, but I was at least able, while I was doing that, to get thumbnails and stuff done, which was nice. So that wasn't that big of a deal. However, that did slow me down, and then I had to help my dad troubleshoot something on his computer for an hour, and that was might have been 9 to 10 p.m. Yeah, I think that might have been 9 to 10 p.m. at that point. And 9 p.m. I wanted to do a session, or start a session rather, of Light Lake around about 9 p.m. because I was still feeling pretty energized. Normally I start falling off around about 9 p.m., so I normally don't. But I was feeling pretty energized still at 9 p.m. So I was going to do light, but then my dad got me from 9 to 10, and then from 10 to 12, I was working on the printer. So that was Friday. So again, Friday was a bit of a mess. We did not get done nearly as much as I wanted to on Friday. But you know what? I got to interact with people. I got to not be an isolated person, human being floating through the universe. So I guess that wasn't too bad. Let's see. And that brings us today. So since I got to make a decision at this point whether or not to go into work and try to hack together the lights so that I can actually start doing stuff. If I don't, then that would actually bring us back over to Light. I would do a session of Light this morning, which again, I wanted to have at least part of the session done last night so that we're ahead of the curve, ahead of the ball going into this weekend. But obviously that did not happen. So that being the case, I may just forfeit and say, okay, we'll do Light again this weekend, and hopefully Monday, Tuesday, the Pinda comes in for the Prusa. I can get the lights in. I'll just stay late at work, which is again something I don't normally do. I normally want to get home and get work done, but I'll shoot for a Wednesday staying late, let's say, getting the lights done, assuming that I can get the stuff printed on Tuesday. And then we will be back to our regularly scheduled program. Yeah, I guess that's the plan, which means that let's see, I have us scheduled for some more Chroma Squad this afternoon, so make sure you tune in for that. Otherwise, I guess I will be filling up the rest of this morning with Light development, and then this evening after dinner, I'll see what we end up doing. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to do a design stream because, again, I wasn't sure where exactly I would be at with the lighting. So my plan was possibly to go back to work tomorrow, or this evening rather. So be at work this morning, ideally around about 10:30, or let's see. If I started streaming at 8:30, then done at 9:30, yeah, so 10. So get into work around 10, and then get the lights done, and then record this evening. I think that was my original plan, but again, all that is off the rails at this point. So we'll see what we end up doing. Otherwise, I have remembered at this point one other fun little thing. So I have been working out at home. I haven't gone to the gym. I said back when we did our previous talk that I really need to get to the gym, but I've actually managed to lose. Oh shoot, I forgot to weigh myself this morning to get you the updated number. I was going to weigh myself this morning to see where we're at this week, but as of 2 weeks ago, yeah, I think 2 weeks ago was the last time I weighed myself. We were down, let's see, I started at 220, right? So that would be 15 pounds. I was back down to 205. I was back down to 205 as of 2 weeks ago. I figured I'd probably be down to 200 this week, was my thought there. But we're doing pretty good. However, the problem is that my left elbow at this point has blown up. Now, looking at it this morning, I think it has gone down a little bit. I was a bit concerned because, and let me see if I can't Google this again. Whoops, come back here. Window, don't run away from me. Oh, I only have one up, that's why. Okay. Let's see. Whoops, what did I just hit? Oh, the bookmark tab. Let's see. Elbow swelling. I forget what the name is. It swelling. Elbow bursitis. So this looks exactly what I have. It's this like egg on my elbow. Okay. And it was legitimately golf ball sized on Thursday or Friday, Wednesday night. Wednesday night? No, it was Thursday night. It was Thursday night. So I noticed my elbow was a little bit weird leading up to Thursday night. let's say back round about last week. Honestly, as early as last week, I realized there's something a little bit weird with my elbow, but it doesn't really hurt, so I wasn't too concerned about it. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at it on Thursday and I'm like, what the heck, why is there a golf ball on my elbow? So one of those things, I started icing it, and I felt like Friday morning it had gone down a little bit, and I feel like this morning it's gone back down a little bit more, which suggests that it's not infected. However, starting Thursday, actually before I even realized that it was there, to be fair, just to be totally open, this is not me attributing anything to it after the fact. Thursday, before I realized that it was like that, I was feeling a little lightheaded. However, I had been getting to sleep late on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I assumed that that's all it was. I figured I was just maybe a little bit lightheaded because I was a little bit exhausted. Again, we've been lifting heavy stuff and moving heavy stuff around my room, so getting to sleep late is not going to help that any. Seemed like a valid explanation. And then yesterday, all day I just felt like my face and my ears were flush. So I got a little bit concerned that maybe it was infected, and it does feel a little bit warm, but since it seems like it might be going down with the icing and whatnot, I'm going to assume that I'm doing all right. I'm going to assume that my elbow is not infected and is going to kill me. Seems like a good bet. So that was one of the other things that was supposed to go on the talking list. Fun. And then, well, that and I'm down hopefully 20 pounds. Hopefully I've hit 20 pounds this week. Otherwise, at least 15 pounds. One of these funny things, right? Well, it doesn't help that I, obviously Thursday, when I realized that my elbow was like that, did not do any exercising. So I didn't do any exercising Thursday or Friday because I was like, okay, we are not going to risk screwing this up any further. But hopefully we ended up making the 20 pounds anyway. Again, unfortunately did not verify. And then what else do we have to talk about? I feel like there was at least one more topic that I had on mind that I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Well, this was not a topic, but while I'm trying to think of things to talk about, I'll tell you what's funny. So, in case you didn't see it, if you somehow missed it, the video, the Lightlike 17, I'm just using my normal Lightlike. I did not make a thumbnail for this thumbnail. No thumbnail. And somehow, so I called it "If There's a Place You Want to Go on the Map." All right. That's the only thing different. That's the only change visually here that is going on is just the title has changed because it uses the default thumbnail. Somehow it hit 6 views in the first 8 hours, and I was like, I know that may not sound huge for other people, but being as a lot of Lightlike videos only have 1 or 2 views. Oh, actually, the funny thing is that I just realized the edited Lightlike videos, because they're using the default thumbnail, it still has the live on it, and these were not live, these were edited. So I gotta fix that, so that's fun. But it was pretty interesting that somehow I ended up getting a bunch of extra views just because I memed on Dora the Explorer. Pretty hilarious. Let's see. Let's go ahead. It should be easy enough for me to fix this right off. Because Lightlike... Oh, I guess Lightlike... That's right, I changed out. So periodically I need to clear out... I save all... Well, sorry. This is getting a little discombobulated here on my explanation. So, in GIMP, I have layers. And I normally build the thumbnail in layers and then merge it all down after I'm done with the thumbnail, after it's been posted. And then I just leave it there in GIMP, in the file that I use for setting up thumbnails. And that means that after yay so many videos, the file just gets so large that it starts taking a little bit to load, which means that I just create a new file. I just copy paste the file and then delete out all the old layers. That way I still have access to all the thumbnails that I've created in the past, even though I can't edit them. You know, even though there's no longer layers, there are still at least the thumbnails themselves there in case I need them for some reason. Plus I still have all the raw photos, so any raw photos I use are still in my file, in my not public pictures, in my pictures folder. But point being, I brought that up just to give you a little bit of background there, and to say that now I've got to track down the last .xcf file that I had the Light Lake logo in, and export it without, there it is, I have found it. So export it without the without the live logo. Click. All right, so here's a funny thing about GIMP, in case you don't know. If you try to align stuff in GIMP, they do not align if they're in a subfolder, which is kind of funny. And furthermore, it looks like I can't actually align text, which is weird. So what if I create a new layer, merge this down onto that layer, and then try to zealous crop that. I'll zealous crop that, and then align it like that. That should work. Merge down, and then layer zealous crop, or crop to selection, crop to content. Where's zealous crop? Is that not a thing? Okay, I guess that's still a thing for images, but not for what you call it? Not for layers. All right, so there we go. So now we got that layer. That is now a regular layer, and I should be able to. Huh? This is hilarious. Why can't I align this layer at this point? My point was, where I was going with this is that GIMP makes it all sorts of difficult for you to align stuff, and I don't know why. It is very difficult to get your, there's certain hurdles that stop you from aligning the layer. For example, if it's inside of a group, then you can't actually select it in order to align it to the image, which is annoying. Default Light Lake, export, and then we can update the thumbnail on the YouTube page with this thumbnail, and it no longer has the live logo on it. And in theory, I should make actual thumbnails, but you know. All right, done. And 3, 2, 1.5, 1, done. All right, cool. So thumbnails are back up to date, and they are no longer showing the live symbol for the ones that are no longer live. And let's see, anything else to talk about? I don't think so. I don't think I've got anything else to talk about. Oh, I guess there's one other thing I could talk about. It's going to come up in Light Lake in maybe 3 sessions. 3 sessions from now, we'll probably talk about it. So, back when I first started Light Lake, I talked about how I was thinking about using something like Google Lambda or GPT-2 to generate text for Light Lake. Well, since then, you may have heard of this thing called GPT-3. So, that seems like a reasonable thing to do. It seems like it works well enough, and because I haven't talked about this yet, and we're on a talking stream, I think I will be using GPT-3 to generate the text on Light Lake, the encounter text, because again, ideally I'd want something like I don't know, 100 different encounters, maybe more, and it would just take me entirely too long to write up 100 different unique encounters. However, if I get the computer to do it for me instead, because again, the thing about Lightlike is that it is part demo and part actual game. Like, I'm trying to make it to be an actual game, actually enjoyable to play. But at the same time, A, I'm a one-man studio here, and B, it was really designed initially just to say, look, there's this browser game that we played on stream. You can build a browser game, you know? Now, granted, I'll admit, having... back in January, when I was on break, I went back and looked at Lightlike. I mean, not Lightlike, A Dark Room. I went back and looked at A Dark Room. And I went, you know what? At this point, I can understand some of the design decisions in this game. Because, again, the game is marketed as a minimalist text-based adventure. Again, as I discussed previously, they do not actually advertise it, as far as I can tell, as a roguelike on the site themselves. Other people call it a roguelite. So since they don't call it a roguelite themselves, they're not really under any responsibility to have proper roguelite mechanics, which they don't have, as far as I can tell. So the fact of the matter is that my game is actually significantly more expansive than theirs. And furthermore, the UI, which a lot of the code that I've written in the past few weeks is literally getting the UI upgrading the UI as opposed to their system. So for that reason, my game is no longer minimalist. My game can't really be categorized as minimalist, so I've kind of got to update the GitHub as well, because I have it listed as minimalist on the GitHub because that was the intention. However, in trying to make the game a better game, a better, more enjoyable gameplay experience, it no longer adheres to the minimalist criteria, the minimalist theming that A Dark Room has. So I kind of lost out on that one. I've got to admit, that is one area where I kind of failed in this game, is that in my pursuit of a better gameplay experience, I did lose track of the minimalist aesthetic. That was actually the word I was looking for when I threw out 3 different words there a minute ago. Minimalist aesthetic is what I lost out on, trying to make it a better game. And I'll openly admit that one. However, point being, as we said, is if I get the computer to write me encounters, that will get Lightlike finished a lot quicker, and we can move on, because again, Lightlike is intended to show you how you can design a fully featured game. Well, I mean, maybe not fully featured. There are some features that will not be in Lightlike. It is just a browser game, just an HTML5 browser game to boot, as opposed to a quote-unquote Flash game. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm being a dead horse here if I start talking again about how, it only has that purpose and it's going to be finished and we just need to get out of the way, etc., etc., etc. So I will not say any of that stuff. So, let's see. I do believe those are all my talking points at this point. I will say, editing is painful, but I don't think it was as painful, or I don't think it has been as painful as I've been expecting it to be. I've always hated editing videos, which is why I was trying to get away from what that. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I do honestly think that live streaming creation of things is important. I honestly do believe that. However, that was helped. That decision to do that was certainly helped along and made more appealing due to the fact that I freaking hate editing. However, as I said, it has not been as painful as it used to be. I have been getting through it. Do I want to save this? Yeah, I guess I save this. I have been getting through it quicker than I recall getting through it in the past. So that is a plus side. That is a bonus. Let's see. Oh, shoot. So I realized as I was looking at my main screen. Oh, okay, good. That is an overlay. I noticed back to videos that have the live thumbnail when they really shouldn't have the live thumbnail. I realized the Mythic Table extension thumbnail for video 2 also had the live, even though it was edited. So I am really quick fixing that. And I guess on that topic, Mythic Table extension, this was 1.5. No, this is 130. Where's 130? There we go. Mythic Table. I don't know how much more I will be doing with that. The fact of the matter is that I am just about done with DMing to begin with for my campaign. And I was only going to use Mythic Table for this campaign as a test grounds because, again, the campaign I was running was supposed to be a nonsense pickup campaign that was only supposed to run when other people could not DM. So for that reason, I figured that was a good place to test out the gameplay, or test out the site, the website, and decide whether or not I liked it. And there certainly are things that I prefer on it over Roll20, for example. However, I'm not sure, again, and I've mentioned this before, I'm not sure where exactly the development team is at with this. It's hard for me to see changes and updates to it. Serious changes and updates to it. And for that reason, I'm not sure if it's worth... I'm Googling right now, trying to find their... What was it? They're not actually on... They're on GitLabs. That's what it is. GitLabs. I'm trying to find their GitLab. Alright, let's see. Mythic Table. When was the last push? Alright, so there was an improvement. Keycloak script. I don't know what that is. Let's look at it. Okay, so this is a very minor update 2 weeks ago. This is a back end logging the users in, it looks like, or at least getting user credentials. So let's see. Art and docs haven't been updated for a year. Let's see, HTML. Source. App. Let's see. Here, we can go over this together. I'll bring you over here. Edge. And again, since we're talking, let's go ahead and bring me over. Image. Me with white background. Me with white background somewhere. There we go. Alright. Alright, there I am. So. Oh. And you are looking at the wrong screen again. Source changed over to this one. There we go. So, one of those things, I'm just digging through here. As you can see, these are the store is the core component, right? That stores data. Main was updated 2 weeks ago, and let's check history. Where is my... Well, I guess... Okay, so that's profile badge polish. So that's like CSS and stuff. Presumably. Color light blue. Green. This appears to be just adding options. Again, profile badges. Dice chat improvements. And this was 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, Dice chat improvements were done. That's good. and that was in main.js. 3 months ago, OIDC. Okay, so that's just environment variables. Components. OIDC is 2 years ago, and again, that was just environment variables. 6 months ago on this one, chat components 2 weeks ago. Again, this is probably going to be chat badges. Yeah, profile badge, or there we go, profile badge polish right here. So that's all that is. 1 year ago, 11 months, 7 months, 2 weeks, profile badge polish again. So my point here, the reason I'm going through this is that Mythic Table does not appear to be in active development. So if it's not in active development, then that does not exactly entice me to continue with it. And therefore, if I'm not going to bother continuing with it and switching over to another virtual tabletop for my campaigns, then I have no intention, or I have no incentive, rather, I should say, no incentive to continue developing the extension to improve it while they're developing it. Again, the idea was that I would create this extension, and while they're improving it, while you're waiting for them to put updates out, this would get you by. This extension would help bridge the gap until they have these features fully implemented into the game, and from the looks of it, that's not going to happen. Actually, you know what? I closed that window, but there was something else that I wanted to show you. Control-Shift-T. Control-Shift-T. Let's see. Monthly reports. This is what I wanted to see. No thank you. So, this is the other important thing. And let me make sure that this is pointing at the right page. Preview. They have up on their web page, and it is not, so we'll swap that off. They have up on their web page this thing, and this is because they're a Kickstarter. This is responsibility. This is reports about what is going on, and as you can see, the last one was January of 2020, or March rather, of 2022. And financial statements stops, I think, round about the same time. April, yes, round about the same time. April of 2022. So the money appears to no longer be happening. And if we look at this, if I recall correctly, before I click on this, if I recall correctly, they are quote unquote in the red here. Yeah, so minus 25%. So operating expenses, 775. 605 gross payments, it looks like. And that's, again, as you can see right here, direct public support. That's Kickstarter money. So Kickstarter money, 605. Operating expenses, 755. And the funny thing is that I feel like I saw an even worse number somewhere around here. And to be fair, actually, this may not necessarily be Kickstarter money, since it's a month-to-month. This may be, and we can go ahead and Google that really quick. That may be Patreon, if they have a Patreon. I'm not actually 100% sure. Patreon. There we go. So that may be Patreon support. And frankly, this is one of those things with Patreon. Yeah, you see that $316 a month? That's not being accounted for on the website. So, one of these things, if you are a patron over at Mythic Table and you happen to see this video, seriously, consider reaching out, and if they don't respond to you, then maybe don't subscribe, maybe stop being a Patreon, or patron rather, stop being a patron, because if they're not actually putting out content, this is, they shouldn't be getting this money, frankly. I realize it's $2 a month. I realize, well, $2 to $3 a month. $4, $6. All right, so there's some people who may be spending a lot more. I didn't realize this list went all the way down. You may be spending $25 a month, and they may not be actively developing this product. Again, it does not appear to me like they're actively developing it, just based on what I'm seeing on the GitLabs. So, I mean, I'm not going to bother pulling it back up. So, that's where we're at right now with Mythic Table. Mythic Table 1.1 may be my final update to that extension, unless I somehow get very inspired. About the only other thing I can think of at this point, just based on using it for the past few weeks, is, well, there's two things. One is adding a math component to the can I actually pull up play dot, or actually it's WP, not WP, that's WordPress. What is Mythic Table? FP, that's what it is. So let's pull this up really quick, so just so I can show you. Let's just come over here. It doesn't matter. I don't actually need to show you with a full campaign. Set this up. So there's two things. One is having to find this GM character when you have 15 different characters over here. Let me put my face out of the way. I go over here. All right. So finding the GM character in the characters tab when you have 15 different characters in the way is a bit obnoxious. So either A, setting up a hotkey to automatically edit the GM character, and or B, figuring out how to resort this so that the GM character is up top always, would be one improvement that I could do in the future. And the next is for the HP tracker. This guy. It would be useful to enable math. So to be able to say 10 minus 10, just hit save, and for the HP tracker to automatically replace this text with 0 and update the token, obviously. So those are rather the two updates that I would want to do. The third, if I'm thinking about it, is maybe a hotkey to toggle these guys. As far as I can tell, there's no hotkey over here. So being able to toggle the reveal tool with a hotkey and then closing that, having a, setting up escape to, or double tap escape to close any of these menus you have open. Because sometimes you're like, okay, you're going here. Okay, you want to move your character? Oh no, I just drew on the board again, Like, and this is more a problem with the fog tool. So fogging up that, and then, I want to, actually, this is it, right? So I'm middle clicking right now. This is what normally happens to me, that's right. Is I'll try to middle click to drag to pan the screen, and it doesn't work with the fog tool. So that would be the third possible update that I could do. And again, that is actually assuming that I can do that. The hotkey things. So the hotkey would have to trigger the edit character event is what it would have to do. I think that's possible. Triggering these things I've never looked into before. So I'm not sure with these side tabs whether or not they have actions that I can manually trigger on the back end. So for that reason, I'm not sure if that one's viable. The math over in the GM character is doable. That should be doable. One of these things that can be a little tricky though, because you're parsing code more or less. So it'd have to be very strict so it can't be exploited is the trick there. But so long as we've got that, then we're fine. So, yep, that is probably everything I want to talk about for Mythic Table. Talking about Mythic Table since that is one of our projects, or was one of our projects. But regardless, I do think at this point I am out of topics. So, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Unfortunately, like I said, we ran into this whole entire issue with it looks like the Pinda is dead on my printer, so that's not fun, but we'll get that fixed as soon as possible. I'll be back to printing. Otherwise, I will see whether or not, I guess, and again, it may not be today, it may be tomorrow, because at this point today, I am just bummed out enough that I may as well just work on Lightlike instead. But maybe tomorrow I run into work and see if I can't hack together the wiring without the spacers in there, just to get it up and done, just so that we can move forward with that. Because again, either it's going to take me 3 weeks to get the stupid thing in from Europe, or 5 days to get it from Amazon. So Dependa is what I'm referring to. So one of these things, honestly, it is better not to waste time and just to get it done if we can without waiting for the 3D prints. So probably I will look into that tomorrow. Just don't want to do it today because I'm already done with this stupid machine today. So I don't want to do anything related to it at this point. We'll just fill the rest of our time up with other useful projects. So. Like I said, that is it from me, guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great and wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at in the world. And I will catch you next time.